I've come to a stark realization. Owen lacks any sense of responsibility or compassion. It's clear now that I'll have to take action. I've decided to stay in this house with my parents, and Owen will need to leave. Ever since we got married, Owen has depended on me for everything. Now, despite my efforts and the fact that I pay $4,000 a month for rent, he's trying to force me out of my own home. This is my breaking point. For months, I've been contemplating divorce, but Owen's selfishness and cruel remarks have sealed my decision. I told him firmly, I will leave this house, yes, but for now, you need to go quickly. He simply shrugged and replied, Fine, I'll be out tonight and back tomorrow evening. Just make sure you're gone by then. The nerve of him, I asked. Don't you even care to check what I might take with me? His response, Don't touch my equipment. Do whatever you want with the rest of the stuff. His dismissive attitude left me stunned, but also resolute. If he's giving me free rein to handle the household items, I might as well use this opportunity wisely. Perhaps it's time Owen experiences the consequences of his behavior. I've already started planning. If needed, I'll hire a removal service to pack up everything I care about, and Owen will finally get a taste of his own medicine. For context, here's a bit about my situation. I'm Erica, 31 years old, a graduate from a prestigious program, and I work as a researcher at a well-known company. My career is stable, and my income is respectable for my age. With my earnings, I can afford to live in a luxurious apartment that costs $4,000 per month in rent. On paper, my life seems ideal. I have a good job, a nice home, and a family. Owen, my husband, and Sam, our son. To outsiders, it may appear that I have it all. I understand there are people who struggle with basic necessities, those who don't have a roof over their heads or who are elderly and live alone. In many ways, I am fortunate, and I don't take that for granted. However, my life isn't as picture-perfect as it seems. The truth is, the $4,000 rent weighs heavily on our budget. Even with my decent salary, it's a substantial financial strain. What makes it worse is Owen's refusal to contribute meaningfully. If he had a proper job, we wouldn't have to struggle like this. But Owen, at 32 years old, is still chasing a dream of becoming a musician. I once admired his ambition. He was somewhat popular in his early days, performing at various events and live houses. But let's be real, entertaining a few hundred people here and there doesn't pay the bills. His income from part-time jobs is unstable, and his dream of making it big as a musician feels more like a fantasy now. Meanwhile, I'm left shouldering all the responsibility. Instead of working toward a stable future for our family, Owen clings to his dreams, leaving me to deal with the harsh realities of life. He dismisses my concerns as if I'm nagging. His response is always the same. You sound like an old woman with all your complaining. But I'm not complaining. I'm stating facts. I've been patient, supportive, and understanding, but my patience has run out. I've carried this marriage and our family on my shoulders long enough. Owen's refusal to change has forced me to make a choice. Divorce is no longer a distant thought. It's my way forward. I deserve a life where I'm not constantly worrying about rent or being belittled for speaking the truth. My son, Sam, and I deserve better. It's time to put my well-being first and let go of a relationship that's only holding me back. In the end, I know this decision is for the best. I'm capable of building a happy, secure life for myself and my child without Owen dragging us down. And if that means starting over, so be it. This is my chance to reclaim my independence and create a future where I feel truly fulfilled. When I was younger, I saw Owen shine as he chased his dreams. He seemed amazing, full of promise. When I got pregnant, he said, I'll work hard for our future child. I was only 20 when we got married and started a family. I thought getting married meant he would give up his music dreams and focus on building a life with us. At first, I felt bad for questioning his choice to stick with part-time jobs and his dream of music. I didn't want to make him feel like he had to give it all up for the family. But after our child was born, everything changed. Owen still kept going with his music and part-time work as if nothing had happened. I couldn't take it anymore. One day, I warned him, "How long do you plan to keep working part-time jobs? You're almost 32. People your age are building careers." Owen just replied, "I have my own way of living. Don't compare me to others." I couldn't believe his answer. "Your words sound good, but they don't mean anything. If you want to talk about living your way, then start by helping out with the household expenses." He tried to justify himself by saying, "When I become famous, I'll make up for the money I'm not earning right now." I snapped back, "Stop dreaming and face reality." Owen had no answer to that. Eventually, he took up a part-time job, but even then, it wasn't enough. Earning $2,500 or even $3,000 a month would have helped, but Owen didn't stop talking about his dreams. "You're being too noisy," he'd say. "Times have changed. There are lots of ways to succeed without signing with an agency. I'm not just streaming anymore. It's just that my name isn't well known yet. Companies hold all the power in advertising, but I'm making progress, even if it's slow." I didn't know how to respond. It's all so confusing to me. When will he realize it's all just an illusion? Owen's band already broke up, and the other members have moved on. Some got married, and others found steady jobs. I think Owen should do the same, but he says things like, "Giving up your dreams is pathetic." I don't see it that way. I think choosing to give up your dreams for the sake of your family is a meaningful and responsible decision. Is that so wrong? When I was pregnant, Owen promised he'd work hard for our future child, but now I see what he really meant. He'd keep working hard at his music career. I keep hoping that as our child grows, Owen will finally face reality. "Did you buy expensive clothes again?" I asked. "Looking good is important for my job," he replied. I couldn't believe it. He hasn't made a single dollar from music yet, and here he is talking like he's a star. It's been 11 years since our child was born, and Owen is still working part-time. Now, at almost 32, he's spent years chasing his music dreams without any real success or achievements. Instead of earning money, he spends more and more on expensive clothes and music equipment. "I wish you'd spend less on those things and contribute a bit to the household," I told him. "You can't satisfy hunger with pretense." He snapped back, "These things are necessary for me." Because of his attitude, we argue a lot. We try to have these discussions when our child isn't home or move to another room, but the apartment is small, so he often overhears us if we raise our voices. That's one reason we're considering moving to a bigger place. As our son Sam grows, this apartment will only feel more cramped. "Hey, Sam's 11 now, and this place is getting too small. Should we move?" I asked Owen. "Yeah," he said. "This was your house originally and anyway, right? You lived here alone before we got married." "Do you have a problem with that?" I asked. "It's not a problem," he replied, "but I'd like to move to a bigger place, maybe a high-rise condo." "That would be cool." "And who's going to pay for it?" I asked. "I'll help with the household expenses. You handle the rent, and I'll cover the electricity, gas, and groceries. Please, I really want to live in a high-rise condo." With my salary, moving to a high-rise condo was possible. I was even a little encouraged that Owen offered to help, even in a small way. Maybe this could be the push he needed to understand the value of money and face reality. Okay, I said, I'll look for a place, but since I'm paying the rent, I get to choose where we live. Deal, he said. As long as it's a high-rise condo, I'm fine with whatever you pick. I hoped this new chapter would bring some positive changes, but things didn't go as planned. A year after moving into the condo, Owen is still chasing his music dreams at 32, and he hasn't kept any of the promises he made when we moved. Hey, the gas bill came, I reminded him. Make sure you pay it before it's debited from my account. I'll give it to you next time, he said casually, once again failing to take responsibility. I don't have the money right now. When is next time? I asked. You always say that, but then you never pay. You're always making excuses. Do you really think money isn't important? All you ever do is fuss about money, Owen replied. All I'm asking for is the minimum amount to cover our bills. Why should I have to keep scolding you about this? I said. He promised he would help with the bills, but it feels like those promises never meant anything. Thankfully, I set up direct payments from my own account for important expenses like electricity and gas. If I hadn't, Owen might not have paid them at all. Every now and then, though, Owen does leave some money behind. Once, I found $100 on the living room table while he wasn't home. It wasn't even close to enough, but I thought maybe he was embarrassed to give it to me directly. For a moment, I wondered if this was his way of showing he cared. Maybe he was trying to be considerate. But I quickly realized I was wrong. I still hadn't received a share of the electricity bill for the month. I do pay sometimes, don't I? Owen argued. It felt like he only gave small amounts of money to make himself feel better about not contributing. Then there were the lies. One day, he said, I want to take my parents on a trip. Can you lend me some money? How much do you need? I asked. $100 should be enough, he replied. I handed it over, but deep down, I knew he wasn't taking anyone on a trip. Owen has a habit of lying when he wants pocket money. I know this, and he knows I know, but we still go through the motions. He probably uses the money to treat his friends or show off. Meanwhile, the rent for our high-rise condo is $4,000 a month. It's been this way for 5 years, and I've been struggling to cover it. I thought moving here might inspire Owen to work more seriously, but he keeps letting me down. I can't save any money in this situation. I'd much rather use the money for something meaningful like our child's future or retirement. I've thought about divorce before, but now I'm starting to think seriously about it. Then Owen said something that made my decision clear. Hey, we have an unused room, right? I was thinking of clearing it out and making it a space for my parents. What do you think? A room for your parents? Are you saying they'd move in with us? Why are you suddenly bringing this up? I asked, surprised. My parents are getting older. We can't just leave them alone, Owen said, trying to sound noble. But I know Owen. He always talks big, but he can't follow through. Who does he think is paying the $4,000 rent for this high-rise condo? I'm also the one covering all the living expenses and our son's education. The idea of being forced to live with my in-laws on top of all this is completely unacceptable. I'm against it, I replied firmly. Don't answer so quickly. Think about it for a while, he said. I have thought about it. My answer is no, I said again. Why are you being so stubborn? What's wrong with taking care of your parents? Are you telling me to abandon mine? You're heartless, he snapped. To someone just listening to this conversation, I might sound selfish, but that's not true. The problem isn't his parents. It's Owen. If his parents move in, I know exactly what will happen. Owen will dump all the responsibility of taking care of them on me. I'm already doing everything for this household. I cannot and will not take on even more. I will not live with your parents, I said firmly. Owen glared at me. I see how heartless you are. Fine, I'll live here with my parents. So you need to leave, he said angrily. I couldn't believe it. Ever since we got married, Owen has been completely dependent on me, and now he's trying to kick me out of the house, even though I'm the one paying the $4,000 rent every month. His words made me realize how helpless and irresponsible he truly is. I've been considering divorce for a while, but now I'm sure. His unreasonable demands and selfishness have made my decision clear. Fine, I'll leave the house, I said. Good. Pack your things and get out quickly. I'm going out now, but I'll be back tomorrow evening. Be gone by then, he said coldly. Are you sure you don't want to check what I'm taking with me? I asked. Don't touch my equipment. Do whatever you want with the rest, he replied before leaving the house. Now that Owen was gone, I realized I was free to handle everything in the house as I pleased. As I stood there thinking, my 15-year-old son, Sam, came out of his room. Mom, I'll help you pack. I'll go with you too, he said softly, trying to comfort me. It broke my heart. Whenever Owen and I fought, Sam would quietly go to another room to avoid the tension. As a parent, it hurts me deeply that my child feels like he has to tiptoe around these situations. When Sam was younger, he loved playing with his dad and didn't understand what was really happening. But as he grew older, he began to see the truth. Now, he supports me in ways no child should have to. Where should we start, Mom? Sam asked. Start with your own things, I said. I have something else to handle. I just want to give him a little shock, I thought as I grabbed my phone and made a call. Hello, I'm sorry for the last-minute request, but could you help us tomorrow? After packing up what we needed, my son and I decided to stay in a business hotel for a while with just the essentials. We would have to find a new place to live soon. That evening, knowing Owen would call, I placed my phone on the table and waited. When it rang, Sam and I looked at each other, and I picked it up. Hey, what's going on? Where are you? What are you doing? Owen shouted on the other end. What do you mean? What's the problem? I asked calmly. All my clothes and equipment are here, but everything else is gone. Where are the tables? The fridge? Did you take them? No, I replied. I called a junk removal service to get rid of everything. By now, it's probably already been burned. Sam, are you there too? Owen asked, sounding even more panicked. When Sam spoke up, Owen seemed completely caught off guard. He probably didn't expect Sam to still be around and was shocked to find the house nearly empty. What do you mean everything's gone? The furniture and appliances, those are marital properties, he said angrily. You told me I could do whatever I wanted with everything except your equipment, I reminded him. So I did just that. How am I supposed to live now? Owen asked, his voice full of frustration. If you need furniture, you can buy new ones. For now, maybe use your amp as a chair or wrap your guitar in a towel for a pillow, I replied with a hint of sarcasm. That's not funny. How could you do something so nasty? He snapped. We're getting a divorce. I said firmly, yes, I understand. Owen replied, sounding like he expected me to be shaken by the mention of divorce. Maybe he thought this was just another argument that would eventually blow over, but I had already made up my mind. His words didn't scare me. They only made me more certain about my decision. In fact, I was almost relieved he brought it up. Really, you understand? We're getting a divorce? I repeated, making sure he knew I was serious. You don't have to say it so many times. I understand, I said coldly and calmly, making it clear that this was final. Owen must have realized that the divorce would hurt him more than it would hurt me. He seemed flustered, unsure of what to say next. Normally, he'd apologize and back down, but this time he couldn't. Maybe it was his stubborn pride as a musician. He couldn't admit defeat. But I know Owen too well. Once he says something, he doesn't take it back, even if he regrets it. Owen acted like he had everything under control, but now it all seemed ridiculous. "We'll talk about the details of the divorce later," I said. "You're planning to live in this house with your parents, right? Should I go to the real estate agent first to update the contract?" Owen hesitated. "Yeah, but if the contract is changed to my name, the divorce can't be undone. This is your chance to apologize," he said, his voice shaky. It felt like a weak last-ditch attempt to stop what was happening. Maybe he thought my decision to get rid of the furniture and appliances was part of some master plan to force a divorce, but after 15 years of frustration, my feelings weren't going to change so easily. Deep down, I wished he would face the consequences a bit more. A few days later, Owen and I went to the real estate office to review the condo contract. I smoothly ended my part of the agreement. The process was quick and simple, but when Owen tried to sign a new contract, there was a big problem. "What? The rent is $4,500? Owen's face turned pale. When I first signed a contract for the high-rise condo, Owen left everything to me, choosing the property, negotiating, and signing the paperwork. He never even asked about the details, so he had no idea how expensive it was. "There's no way I can pay that rent, even if my parents help," Owen said in shock. Apparently, after I left, Owen planned to rely on his parents to share the cost of the rent. He assumed that between the three of them, they could manage it, but the actual rent was way more than he expected. Since his parents are retired and only have their pensions, and Owen is a part-time worker with an unstable income, it was clear they couldn't afford it. "I had already seen this coming," I said. "You've been paying this much every month?" Owen asked, stunned. "Yes," I replied. "I've been paying it the whole time because you don't work. We haven't been able to save anything." "I can't handle a contract like this," Owen admitted. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "I don't think you can handle it either." "What do you mean?" Owen asked, looking confused. He seemed so overwhelmed that he didn't even understand the basic requirements for renting a property. I turned to the real estate agent. "Excuse me, is it possible for someone with an irregular income of $2,500 per month to qualify for this contract, if their parents cover the difference?" The agent shook their head. "No, that would be very difficult. The applicant needs to have a stable income to qualify." I looked at Owen. "See, I told you it wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to pass the screening." Owen sat there in silence, realizing for the first time just how far out of his depth he was. The real estate agent, hearing our conversation, probably realized we were about to separate. He gave a small, uneasy smile, but didn't say much. "So what do I do now?" Owen asked. "If you can't sign the contract, you have no choice but to leave," I said. "There's no other option, since I've already canceled my part of the contract." Owen looked shocked. "Wow, you've done something ridiculous again." Owen, who likes to call himself an artist, doesn't have much self-esteem, but he loves to show off. This situation must have been a huge embarrassment for him. With his low income, our pending divorce, and now being outsmarted by me in front of the agent, his face turned red and sweaty like he had just run a marathon in the middle of summer. Ignoring Owen, I continued speaking to the agent. Since the contract can't go through, we'll need to move out right away, correct? I'm sorry for the trouble, but we don't have much left in the house. It's mostly just clothes and music equipment. It shouldn't take long to clean up. Can you guide me on the procedures for moving out? Owen interrupted. You knew I didn't understand the rent or the conditions of the house, and you still went ahead with all of this. What do you mean? I asked. I offered to review the contract, and you said you'd handle it yourself. Whether you knew about my income or not, I thought there might still be a way to make it work. Owen said, clearly frustrated. Don't be ridiculous, I said calmly. I'm not leaving. Owen insisted. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police. I replied, I don't know all the legal details, but you could be sued for trespassing or refusing to vacate. Since this isn't my property anymore, the real estate agency or the owner might get involved. It could get messy if a company reports it. The agent looked increasingly uncomfortable as Owen stood there in silence. You don't want to embarrass yourself any further, do you? Go home and pack your things, I told Owen. Without another word, Owen left the real estate office. I turned to the agent. I'm sorry for all the trouble. The house will be empty soon. If anything is left behind, I'll take care of disposing of it later. When the agent and I went to the condo, it was already empty. To apologize for the awkward situation and any inconvenience caused, I brought some sweets to the real estate office. The process itself went smoothly, but I could tell the agent was still a bit confused by everything that had happened. I'm truly sorry about how things turned out, but this situation brought the dreamy musician back to reality. Now he has no choice but to face the real world, I thought to myself. After he left the house, our divorce was officially finalized. Since neither of us had much money, me spending most of mine on rent and him barely earning anything, there was no argument over dividing assets. My son decided to stay with me. As for my ex-husband, he probably thought he could rely on his parents for support, but I had already closed that door. After being married for about 11 years, I reached out to my in-laws to inform them about the divorce and to say my goodbyes. I felt it was only right to keep them informed about the process. When my in-laws learned about all the things my ex-husband had done, they chose to step back and stop supporting him. They told him they wouldn't help him anymore until he found a stable job and became independent. Because of this, his plan to move in with his parents fell apart. Now over 32 years old, my ex-husband is finding it difficult to get a regular job after living so long as a freelancer. He continues to work freelance, but his income is still very low. He struggles to even pay rent for a small, cheap apartment. In this situation, continuing his music career is nearly impossible. This is the reality for my ex-husband, a man who achieved nothing. As for me, I've rented a new apartment where I now live with my son. Without my ex-husband, the rent is much lower, and I can use my money for more meaningful things. While I don't criticize people for chasing their dreams, I found happiness in creating a comfortable and stable life for my son and me. This is what truly matters to me now.